So here's an interesting set of facts for you. America spends more per capita on both healthcare and prescription medications than any other country in the world. Despite that, our healthcare is considered only 37th in the world. That's a pretty big jump considering we spend more than everybody else and we're behind 36 other people. So the question is, what's going on there? And I mean, I guess the obvious conclusion is that we're doing something really, really wrong. And that's really, really unfortunate. And I'm going to try to take a moment and sort of answer that for you and maybe see if I can share some of my thoughts on maybe what we're doing wrong. And a lot of it comes down to what I call the journey of health. And that's really about how we get sick and how we get well again. And the truth of it is I don't think most people really fully understand how that process goes. What happens is when we start, we're up here. We're in healthy land, okay? And healthy land is a great place to be. It means we're symptom-free, we're problem-free, nothing's going on. But as that system starts to break down, we move out of unhealthy land. We move down into unbalanced or imbalance. And the unfortunate thing about that is that often doesn't have a lot of symptoms. Or it has symptoms that we don't initially recognize. I can't tell you how many people I've had lay on my table and I say to them, how was your digestion? And they say, oh, it's fine, it's great. And then I follow up. I say, well, do you get bloating after you eat? Oh, yeah, most of the time. How are your bowel movements? Well, often fairly loose. Any gas or discomfort? Yeah, sometimes. So really, your digestion is not great. Well, yeah, I guess. But we live in this world where, as long as we can get out of bed and make it to work and kind of slog through our day, we're told that you're basically okay. And we live in that world. And what that means is that while we're in that phase of imbalance, while we may have no symptoms or fairly mild symptoms, we don't really think of ourselves as unwell. And because of that, we often don't really do anything. But from there, we move down one more bracket and we move from imbalance to actually symptomatic. And that's where we start to have problems. That's where it starts to impact our quality of life or our ability to function. And at that point, that's where we usually seek care. And whether that's going to your primary care, whether that's seeing an acupuncturist, a chiropractor, changing our diet, whatever it is that we do, that's usually where we start to do it. And from there, we can move down into extremely symptomatic, or we can start to move to recovery. And that's sort of a wiggly middle ground depending on how we address things. But assuming that we start doing some of the right things, at least, often we get better. Those symptoms will go away. The problem is because we didn't really recognize ourselves as unwell until we had symptoms, we connect our symptoms to being unwell. And so when we treat, instead of treating us as actually unwell, we just treat our symptoms. We treat a palliative concern rather than a constitutional or an underlying issue. And the worst part about that is that at some point, hopefully, those symptoms will go away. We will resolve those symptoms. The problem is resolving those symptoms without resolving that underlying issue doesn't actually fix what was going on. We are still fundamentally unwell. But because our symptoms have gone away, we simply get on with our lives. We don't really continue to move down into actual full recovery. And that's where most people live their lives. They start out in healthy. Here we go. There we go. They start out in healthy, and then we move down to imbalance, and then we become symptomatic and we start to get treatment. And we move down and we get treatment, and we become, okay, we're out of symptomatic and we're right back here, but we're still in unwell, which then just brings us right back into symptomatic, treat, right back into unwell, treat, right back into unwell. And we never really break that cycle. And the problem with that is that the longer that actual fundamental imbalance is there, the worse the symptoms it's going to manifest. We're going to get progressively sicker and sicker and sicker because we're never actually treating what's wrong. And that's a big deal. We exist in this narrow little margin of unwell. What we have to do is we have to move beyond that, and we have to start to treat ourselves in a holistic sense where we start moving beyond symptoms and okay, that's really affecting my quality of life, into how am I actually feeling today? And that takes some mindfulness. We have to plug back into the body. We have to connect to ourselves. We have to become aware of where am I at today and where was I at yesterday and how do I want to feel tomorrow? And we also have to take some responsibility, because the types of changes that I'm talking about to really get down into recovered and well requires a lot of lifestyle modification. You have to eat right. You have to exercise and move regularly. You have to be out of the house moving around. Go out and play Pokemon Go. I don't care how you do it, but get out of your house and move. Because if you're not going to get better. Do correct strength exercise, build bone density, build muscle stability, build a strong, healthy core. Eat right. Get the treatments that maintain your skeletal structure, get the treatments that maintain your functional systems, your endocrine system. Do all those things. And hopefully what that means is you don't ever have to go and funnel more money into that already top per capita pharmaceutical industry, because frankly, most of that is not treating your problem. Most of that is treating your symptoms. And that's got to stop, because as long as you're treating your symptoms, you're basically just dodging a bullet. But you're dodging a bullet in a firefight with multiple automatic weapons. And you can only dodge that so long, and they're going to catch up with you. And none of us make it out of this life alive, but by golly, a lot of us get to make it to the end of this life feeling really, really good. And I would like you to be one of those people. I would like me to be one of those people. But the trick to that is to recognize that we can't exist in that narrow little margin in the middle. We've got to get all the way through and push through to where we can reset to completely healthy, to where we're 100% healthy. And that requires a full spectrum of treatment. If you don't fully understand that, contact me. I'll tell you more about it. Watch more of these videos. Subscribe to our page, Strata on Facebook. Just find us, stratatx.com. Look us up. I'll be putting out more of these videos. We'll be doing educational classes. But this is fundamental stuff, folks. If you want to be well for your whole life, this is the stuff you've got to do. You can't get away with not doing any of this, because anything you're not fixing, you're waiting for it to break down. And that's no way to live a life. I'll talk to you guys next time.